Welcome to the Business of You podcast, the show dedicated to helping service entrepreneurs build a better brand to grow a bigger business. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, and I'm here each week empowering you to put yourself out there, sharing actionable tips and inspiring stories so you can create your personal brand, grow your dream business, and build your future, all while making more income and more impact doing exactly what you love. I'm super excited you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the season finale of season 1 of the Business of You. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, personal brand strategist and founder of Brand Authority, personal branding agency. I'm super excited to be here, right? It's the fuel to our brands. Without it, we're not going anywhere. But the problem is it's really hard to write engaging copy. It's hard to know what to say sometimes. Today's guest is so good. I pulled her back from a event I had with her in Clubhouse in February. She's phenomenal. I can't wait for you to meet her. She's going to give us some strategies, some tactical and practical and actionable tips. Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody. Today, I'm super excited to bring back someone who I just admire so much for their content or marketing. It's Marla Levine. Did I say that right?
You got it. You got it.
All right. Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how you felt about that, but it's a beautiful name. I just want to make sure I got it right. And yay for that. Thank you for being on. I've been so excited for like 6 weeks now because, I mean, come on, you're like the queen of content greatness. So
I appreciate that. That's nice.
Yeah. Tell us everybody who's listening. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then let's get rolling with all the good news we're going to share today.
All right. Yes. Thank you for having me, Michelle. So we met, I don't even remember when it was, a few months ago, I guess, right?
Earlier, like in January, February.
When Clubhouse was like the thing, everyone was over there.
Exactly.
So my name is Marla. I have been doing this in January. It will be 2 full years of going out on my own. I've worked at companies doing social media, content marketing, and things were sort of like mixing up in my world. I had been active on LinkedIn, seeing results and realizing that probably I could do really well on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing the results, so I wanted to sort of take a stab on it on my own. And I always had that sort of fire in my belly to get moving and do my own thing. Things just aligned, and I went out on my own. So right now I do kind of similar work to you. I create content for business owners who know that they need to be on LinkedIn, but really aren't as comfortable putting themselves out there yet, or they just kind of need guidance on what to do. I will do anything from coaching to creating their content. And I absolutely love it because I see for myself what LinkedIn has done. And it's so exciting when I see the magic happening for other people as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So you're doing just LinkedIn because I know you're more active. I'm not much active on Instagram, but you really are. So is it Instagram too?
I'm on Instagram. That's more of like just kind of, I wouldn't say that's like the business part of. I mean, I do actually pick up some clients from there, but Instagram is sort of like my little place to play, and LinkedIn is kind of where I'm a little bit more focused on networking and putting out content that's more directed to what I do. Instagram is sort of it complements it, I would say, but it's not my main focus. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So you're a prime example of someone who left almost, a little over a year and a half ago. You and I were both much like, I left my job of many years in corporate in January 2020. You're a perfect example.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot there in common too. Your example right now, and you're going to tell us of how you just stepped out on LinkedIn. You probably had an account like many of us years before, just got really active, and now your business thrives and is, not only do you help you with LinkedIn, your business comes from LinkedIn. But it's all about the content, right? So let's get started. Yeah. Where does someone, either you're new, we're at the creator economy, the creator entrepreneur, I heard someone say recently, and I can't remember who it was. This is the word, everything's about being a creator now. So the catch is you got to put content out there. Right. Where does one start? Can you give us, would you tell us to get started?
Yes. It's so true. Every business owner essentially now is a content creator. They either need to figure out who's going to be, somebody in the company needs to be stepping up and doing the content. It doesn't always have to be the business owner, although in today's day and age, like that in today's marketing climate, that seems to be the most effective when people get to know who's behind the business. So I think there's like the first step where it's like people need to accept that this is marketing. And I'll sometimes get on a call with somebody and they'll be like, I don't want to work on my personal brand because like I don't need to work on my personal brand. I'd rather work on just content. And I'm like, wait, we have to kind of unpack that because
Yep.
that is the marketing right now. Like that is what it is. It's like
Yes.
it's the equivalent of saying like, you know, I'm gonna go to a networking party, but like I'm not gonna introduce myself because I just want to hand out my business cards because I'm
Oh
there
my
for
gosh.
business. It's the
Yes.
same thing. It's like
Yes. That's
you can't
perfect.
do that. You have to actually like be a human. So I think that when you're starting, like if like first you kind of need to like reframe what you even think about. And I think one of the mistakes
Mindset.
is, yeah, I think one of the mistakes is people think that being this personal brand, they have to like sort of spew stuff.
Mhm.
And that makes people very nervous. I don't want to have to share everything. I don't want to have to like be this, like a lot of people will refer to it as like the bobblehead. They'll just be like bobbling their head, like talking about everything and anything. And it makes them uncomfortable. They see other people doing it and that doesn't speak to who their style. Maybe they're a
Mhm.
private person. They don't want to have to do that. And so I think understanding like you actually don't have to do that if you don't want to. There's other ways to have a personal brand. There's other ways to create content that really people do get to know you, but you're not that person that's like putting out meaningless content. So I think that's very important because I think people are very nervous about it. You know, your
Yes.
traditional business owner, I find that they're very hesitant about that. You and I are like, this is what we do, so we have no problem getting on camera.
Yes.
We're fine. We've done it. We've gotten over that fear, but many people, it's just like I don't want to have to get on and like talk and talk and talk. Like I don't know what to talk about. So I
Yeah.
think there's that, you know. And then so then it comes to like, okay, so then what do we talk about? Like what is the
Mhm.
content we can talk about? And I really believe that it's a healthy mix of personal brand, but you can find, I think we talked about this on Club, it's like you can
Mhm.
find the personal thing you want to talk about that doesn't show all your cards, that makes people feel like you are human, that they can trust you and know you and like you, but you're not like oversharing or you're not like really making yourself so vulnerable or too silly or whatever the thing that you're scared of doing. So finding out like what it is you can talk
Mhm.
about and the thing that you do really well, this, you know, one personal thing that you might be willing to share. You know, for me, I will talk about being a new business owner. I can get very personal with talking about being
Yes.
I can share that without having to like talk about everything else in my life.
Mhm. But it's still personable and we get to know you that way.
Exactly,
Sure.
exactly. So
Yeah.
if you can like mix it up in that way and feel a little bit more comfortable about it, I think that's
Yeah.
kind of where you start.
I see 100% of what you're saying either. And it's surprising people who are new entrepreneurs to CEOs to the high exec, everyone pretty much has that fear.
Yeah,
Some of us just have it greater than others. And one of the other pushbacks I get is, like what, of course, what you said, but I don't want, they feel like a personal brand is manufactured. Like I have to be some fake version of me. And I'm like, no,
right,
no. And I always say, look, a
right.
personal
It's so
brand is
true.
about you, but it's not for you. It's here to show up as you, to use your expertise and your
Right,
knowledge to help others,
right.
and solve that problem that you solve. And, there's a lot of fluffy stuff on personal branding
So
out there.
true.
And that's why,
Yeah,
I try not to take it personally, nothing personally, but I'm trying to dispel that and disrupt that myth because it is the best way to grow your business in
right,
today's day and age.
right. Yeah. It's
So
a
now,
fine balance of like presenting yourself well
yes.
and being authentic and not pretending to be something you're not, because at the end of the day that's going to implode on you. That's not going to really no one's going to
Oh,
really,
no
people
one
will see through
relates to
that.
perfect.
Yeah,
No,
exactly,
the
exactly,
more imperfect you are in a, nice balanced way, I'm not saying you have to go
exactly.
crazy about it. People can respect that, resonate and learn from you. So we've changed everything. And I mean, some things have changed for the better in 2020. And I think this is one of the ways we broke down barriers that way.
You did.
You can be more personable
Yes.
and humanistic and
Yeah.
professional. So I call it either being personal or my little coin word is professional, personal and
I
professional.
love
It's like
that.
a
I
mix.
love that. I actually
Yeah.
love that word. That's a great word.
Yeah. So, okay. So we get through the mindset, and that's so interesting because that's like one of the first steps I work on with my clients. You get through the mindset. I help them realize, no, this is a good thing. This is the best way to humanize your business, your marketing.
Exactly.
So, without going in, I don't want to repeat because I'm hoping I didn't throw out yesterday's post yesterday. If you haven't checked my post yesterday about her 5 things I should post, check that out. But what are some of the ways? Because I know today's a little bit different. It's more
Yeah.
like, how do you get that content and start
Yeah.
making it better? You have a method, I think. It's
I
called
do.
clarity. Let's hear about that.
I call it my clarity method, where I think that the more clear you are on, and this is going to sound cliche, but let's talk about it for a second. Like if you know not only who you talk to, who you're trying to talk to, but the way that they would talk about the thing that you do,
Mm-hmm.
and you figure out the language that you're using. And so when I talk about clarity, it's knowing who you would market, who you're marketing to, but it's also knowing how they would describe the issues that you bring up. It's sort of like if you think about like when you go to a doctor and you describe your issues, you don't necessarily know what the issue is. So you can't throw out the illness. You can't say like, well, I have, I don't know, whatever illness you might have. You'll say the symptoms. You'll be like, well, my stomach hurts and my head hurts and I'm having my eyes twitching or whatever, that is the way that they would describe it. And then the doctor could be like, okay, you have all these symptoms, so you must have XYZ. So I think the same thing with our content is instead of like coming at it from like using all the language, for like me knowing what the problem is, like I know that my clients are very scared of posting frivolous content on LinkedIn, or I know that my clients don't know what to post. They're struggling with what to post. That's the words that they'll come to me and use. And that's the words I'm going to reflect back on them. So that when they read my posts, when they read what I'm writing about, they're like, yes, that is me. And I really think that works with my profile, with my bio, that works with my headline, that works with my content. It makes the readers feel like I really do understand their problem.
Yeah, you're approachable and you're relatable. I call that, it's so funny you say that, I call speaking your customer's language, right?
Exactly. That's exactly.
And when I say it, you just described exactly what that means. It's like when you're on a website or a piece of content on social media and you're shaking your head like, oh my gosh, that's me. Is she reading my mind? It's basically you're reading their mind back to them, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would recommend just tangibly is go back to the calls that you have with your clients, whatever industry you're in, I don't care. Go back to your service calls, your frequently asked questions. Like think back to the last call you got and the questions that you answered. And use that as your content, because chances are many of your customers are kind of asking the same questions. And think about how they said it and then just turn it into a post, like turn that into your content. If I'm speaking to someone, so a few days ago, actually, I did a post about, what was it? It was about like, if you post too many times, do people think that you don't have any work? So actually, this has been said to me a few times by people who are very hesitant to be too active on LinkedIn. It might appear that I'm not busy enough. I took that conversation and I turned it into a post. Like go back to the questions that you're constantly asking and use that as answering, and use that as your kind of like your base for things to talk about. The other part of the clarity is knowing exactly what outcome you want from the post. If you want it to just be engagement and you want people to engage with you, that will tell you certain things on how you want to formulate your post. If you want people to step forward and you actually want people to be raising their hand and saying like, I want to talk to you, well, that's it's the call to action, but it's like, it's knowing exactly the result you want from the post. And that's why, like, we were talking earlier before, we were talking about how engagement's low and whatever. It doesn't always bother me, not engagement, but like the views are low, everything's like low right now. It doesn't necessarily bother me if I'm very clear on what I want from the post. And even if I can get select people to respond in the way I want them to, well, that's enough for me to be like, this was a successful post. And I think being very clear on what it is you want people to know or think or do or feel or say at the end of your post helps you with what the direction of the post. So a lot of times in my mind, I'll be like, okay, this post is going to be a post where I'm answering someone's question. I want people to relate to the question that I'm answering. That's what I want. Another time I will say like, okay, this post is about, I want people to share an experience that they've had similar to this one. That's the goal of the post. I get very, very clear on what my goal is on that. And then the last step of the clarity is looking through your posts. And I actually did write a post on this, but, and it's so funny, like this is something I work on a lot with my clients because it takes them a while to understand what I mean by this, but I want them to read their post. I want them to write their post. Usually the meat of the post, like the best part of it is somewhere
in the
buried.
middle.
Yeah, it's the bottom, it's buried. Like they have this like really fancy intro and it's like hidden at the bottom. But if you can take it and like move it up to the way, way, way top.
Cut to the chase.
Cut to the chase. You give clarity to other people what this post is about and you make it very easy for them to engage with. Like, oh, okay, this is what this post is going to be about. It's clear to them and it makes it, we do an exercise where we literally just like go through the post. I'm like, what's the main point here?
I love that. Yeah.
What's the main point? Like move that up, yo. Like bring it up. And it's I find that for my clients and for myself as well, it's very effective. And it does increase engagement because like right away, people are like, I can engage with this post very easily.
Yeah.
So easy. That's kind of like in a nutshell what the clarity method kind of rolls
No, I
down.
love that. So that kind of really just speaks about I'm like super hyper focused on the headlines. And you're right. The headlines will usually bury, they say in journalism, don't bury the headline. Well, usually we all do because we're worried about, and I even say, come back and write the headline later too. That's another thing I say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's essentially the same thing. It's like write it out.
Yeah.
And then figure it out. Yeah.
And I find that my posts, I'll write it out, the ugly first draft, and then I'll come back and know I'm got to change my headline. And it's like, oh, look, there's a headline right there, line 4. It's usually perfect and it's short to the point. And I tell my clients too, look, if you're just coming out on LinkedIn, which I hope you do, just give snackable content. People are getting to know you. We're all busy. Engagement. It's just a crazy world out there, but it's a good one to be in. But just start small. Just start with shorter posts. You don't need to write a book at first, So people get to know you and want to know that your content's good. Then you can kick it out a little bit. But I'm not saying you have to, but then the pressure's off. You don't have to write a long, and I think, look, short form content is here to stay. That's why we have TikTok, we have Reels.
Exactly.
We have LinkedIn stories. People are just
maybe
sadly,
there'll be LinkedIn Reels soon or something.
Yeah, that's one of the things. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but I promised everyone some even more good stuff. So now we know how to be clear with your clarity ideas and perspectives. How do we start changing up our content? You just gave us a really good tip about, take out that headline and move it up or find it. It feels like I'm in English when your English teacher made you find the main idea.
It's exactly what it is.
It's really true.
One thing I would add to that, if someone struggles with that, because I do see a lot of people kind of like they can't, even if they've written the post, they can't hone in on it. I say like it's either one of 3 things. It's either the thing that's like the main takeaway, or it's the thing that's the most interesting. It's like the most interesting sentence in your post, or it's the one that makes people, it's the one that's throwing an idea on its head. Like it's the idea that it flies in the face of what everyone thinks.
Yeah, against the grain.
Against the grain. So like that will make people kind of be like, oh, she says that? Like, wow.
Yeah, that'll stop the scroll,
That'll stop it. So that's kind of the way to identify that. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. We're clear on when the clarity method is. So when it comes to what are some more ways, I know you have a lot of great insights and examples. Let's talk about this.
So I think that there's a few things in the actual content. Obviously, you want your content to be readable. You want the formatting to be right. Like big blocks of text don't get that, You want like emojis dispersed. A few other things I think that help with it, like mechanical things that help with it. And some people know this, some people don't know this, but mechanical would be like, don't share, don't put a link in the comments, don't share someone else's post because that also is not considered good. The algorithm doesn't like it, whatever it is. Those are kind of mechanical. The other piece, which kind of takes you out of the content, but into the networking side of it, is I do think that you need to manually get your post in front of people. I think you need to manually get your post in front of people. And so people have mixed feelings about this. I don't want to be someone that tags other people. I don't want to spam people. I agree with you 100%. But if you can tag a few people that would love to see your content, that are good friends, that you've made friends with, and that goes back to the networking. Like you absolutely cannot do that with people you've never had a conversation with.
Oh, totally.
That's weird. But I do think you need to sort of tell LinkedIn, this is a good post. And you do need to manually put it in front of people. And so if you've done a good job of getting that clarity part of it, and I have some more thoughts on the content itself, but if you can get the content, but then you can also tell LinkedIn, like to people that, you tag just like 4 people who you've honest to God had a conversation with them before.
Yes.
Like you don't fake it. Like you've had a conversation, you've had a Zoom call, you know them from somewhere, you've worked with them, like make it real. And they'll be happy to jump in and you'll be happy to jump in for them. And what that does is it notifies them, then they come back to your post, they comment on it, and then it tells LinkedIn like, hey, this is a good post. Let's show it to more people. Is it cheating? Is it the game? I don't know.
No. It does. Because I have to say, I've had those weird pop-ups over LinkedIn or like on a company page. It'll say this post got XYZ views. Tag some more people. So they asked you to do that. So I don't
you to do it.
So I don't think it's tagging. But here's the thing: don't tag people you don't know. Don't mass tag thousands of people. That's the surest way to get blocked too. Relevance and context to like your friends or people you know pretty well, and they're going to appreciate that, and it gives them exposure too. Think about that, for the most part. If it's a good post, not a, junk post.
It's a good post. Yeah. And then going back to that content, if you're doing that and you're consistently putting out like content, so eventually people are going to be like, they're not, they're not, but if you can then also tweak your content and you're doing this, it's like a sure, like you win on all angles. You win with your friends, you win with content. And so it just helps you propel you a little bit forward. I think, sometimes LinkedIn needs a little help showing it to more people. So show it to your friends. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think coming back to the content piece, I also believe that not only do you need to be clear on what result you want from the post, but also I like to think that every single post, and we may have talked about this in the last one, I can't remember, but every single post has an actionable takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
So something that somebody could walk away from the computer being like, I am going to try that. I'm going to try that today. And so for any industry, think about any industry. You don't have to get so technical or mechanical or whatever. If you're an engineer, like you don't have to tell people how to like, whatever, do that. But if you're speaking to your market base and you're teaching people, I'll give you an example. Like I have a client who, I'm trying to think which one I would pick. I have a client who is in construction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get in front of developers.
Mm-hmm.
So his content is, he has this personal stuff that he talks about, but then he also talks about stuff that is, how to budget, how to think about how to weed out a good GC, how to, like the things that need to be in place before you start a project, or the things to expect. Those are like little, like it's not going to change anyone's life because they have to hire him to get the full thing of what he does, but it's always with a takeaway. It's always with a thing like, I have just learned something. And what that does is that positions the content creator, the business owner, as someone who's like helpful. Like, I will help you. I will help you. And it can't be like the super obvious content, like the super obvious takeaways, I call them the Captain Obvious. Like if my client gives me something and I'm like, okay, Captain Obvious, like let's get a little deeper. Give them something they wouldn't know on their own. Give them something they wouldn't know, and that people really, really like that because they do feel like I'm here to help. And I really don't mind giving away like I don't mind it because I am helping people. And I got rid of that idea that like I'm giving away all my secrets. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't care. I don't, whatever. It's
fine. They can't duplicate it on their own. I mean, it just builds your credibility. And another way, so you're not Captain Comment Obvious, is put that perspective in like a story or their example or something that relates. And it just keeps showing how you're, specific to that. And no one can duplicate that because you can go Google stuff and then pull anything. And it's like, don't even go there. But tell me your perspective. Tell me how you worked specifically. And so that's how you can tell stories without being personal stories, but then you can, a story and a nugget is going to, even if it's a professional story with a takeaway to them, is going to go far. So I really like that. And one of the things I tell a lot of my clients, like, don't share articles. We were talking about this on my LinkedIn Mastery mod yesterday. Don't share articles. I mean, occasionally you can, but don't ever share an article without your viewpoint, your perspective.
Correct.
Because that's, I mean,
it seems to be like the default of like someone who isn't really so familiar with how LinkedIn.
That's exactly right. They don't know.
All the CEOs, that's what they do. They hire someone to manage their account, and the account manager goes and finds articles, and that's what they're sharing. And
maybe in 2008 this was the thing in LinkedIn, but it's just, I mean, it's just not going to fly. And hats off to LinkedIn if you're hearing. Please, why do we have the share button if you tank all our shares? So it's like, take the share button away or give it some life,
or reward it, or because on some, on Instagram, it's great to share people's
or posts. Facebook. Think how many or let's talk about retweets. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. That's like and the retweets are like fun because it like just, you can follow this thread.
It builds community that way. Yes. I mean, to me, whatever, but I'm not here to be
either get rid of the button or reward it.
Exactly. And they even encourage you to share it, but when you do,
it hurts.
It goes nowhere. Even their own event page shares. They always it's crazy.
It's interesting though. I think that, in corporate, when you see these like CEOs, most of them are not doing this type of content, this personal content. Most of them are not putting the time into it. And it almost like they don't see the value in it and they don't have the time for it. And maybe they're doing okay without it.
Yeah.
So it's like a hard sell. It's like, well, why would I do it if everything's, I don't need it. So it's interesting. What I think, like in that case, you might have a huge opportunity because if all these massive CEOs are quiet. So you have an opportunity to like actually, but we all know they're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're all looking.
Yeah. They're just
So
invisible. Yep.
they're invisible. So if you can make a little noise and get those those other CEOs viewing, so you have a massive opportunity.
Yeah, it just builds a company persona too, and for funding, investment, talent acquisition, whatever. I mean, there's so many
Whatever your
benefits
goal is.
of it. Yeah,
Exactly.
so it's just a matter of the shift. If you people like you and me and a lot of our friends and colleagues and connections, when you're on LinkedIn all the time like we are, you get to know it,
Yeah.
and no pointing fingers, because if you just come in and you don't know what LinkedIn's about, it's easy to think, oh, articles, because if face it, back in the day, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Before we jump into your 3 takeaways and your all the other stuff I like to do on every episode, what are some of the content things that we can learn about from you about engagement and writing and all that good stuff? Anything else?
So a few other things I would, and we kind of talked about this before. I think, knowing the result you want, every single post must have a call to action. I think you've done a post on this before.
Mm-hmm.
Every post must have, you cannot assume that people know what to do. You have to actually assume that people have no idea
Yep.
what you want them to do. And I don't know why that is. Like, why would we assume that? But that's what you have to assume. So you always have to tell people what to do when they're done reading the post.
Okay.
I think that also drives engagement because you're reminding people like, oh yeah, comment, share a story, do something. I think your call to action, whatever you're asking them to do, needs to be easy. It can't be complicated, because it's when you complicate it and you ask for confusing things, when you confuse people, they don't have time. So they just like, ugh. And
Yep.
what's interesting, it's the same thing as when you're sort of prospecting people in the DMs. If you make engagement so hard, they run. So if you ask, if the question is like, what's your biggest problem right now? Dude, that is a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
So no, but whether it's your post or whether it's the DM, you can't ask that question without a little bit of conversation going on first. So make your call to actions like not hard. Yes,
Yeah.
no, yes, no, like this story, that story. Like, don't make it a confusing thing that people are like, and if it's a good post, people will want to share.
Oh, totally.
It will bring that up. But if you ask people to share their earliest memory when they were, like,
Yeah.
dude, I think that's also really important, having the takeaways. And the other thing I would say about, I had something else that I wanted to say about it. I can't remember. It will come to me. But I think with content, yeah, I think like really like getting that, main point up at the top is super important. And then in terms of media, like people, that's one question that comes up a lot. Like, do I do a picture? Do I do a video? Do I do text only? Do I do a poll? Like, what do I do? And my belief in that is like, pictures need to come up. You need to be having pictures. You need to be having video, not every day, not all the time. You need a video here and there. So people really do, when they get on the phone with you, they're like, I already know her. Like,
Exactly.
I know her already. It's easy. It's like, feels like we know each other. Without video, they're never going to really get that. So even if it's not, I will push clients to do one video a week, but if they're not, at least once every 2 weeks. And it's not like, use something you already have, use a call you've done already, when you're on a Zoom. Yeah. When you're on your Zoom call, just like, and the other person leaves, like stick around for a minute, hit record, make a video. You're already on the Zoom. You've already done your makeup. Like just
or you can take that Zoom and then splice some goodness out of it, because you're not pressured, because you're probably just in your best moment.
You're in your best moment. You're probably saying something.
Add some sub captions, So
yeah, like use what you have already. Just give it something to people. I think that those are my main things. And
awesome.
Yeah, I think those are my main things.
Okay, so those were your 3 things. So that's what are they? What were they? The headline or the main idea? The call to action.
Knowing what you want from the post, and I would say my last takeaway in terms of what you're writing about, the things that you're writing about, would be go back to the questions you have answered for clients already, because that is your content. Like, that is your content. So go back to that. Like you said, wrap it up in a story, wrap it up in a solution. Oh, that's what I was going to say before. When you are thinking about, when you're thinking about the content that you're writing, people want to know that you've had results for other people. So when you're telling that story, wrapping it up in a story, like, my client had this struggle. Here's how we solved this struggle. Here's what we did. And here's a takeaway from it. So it's like all of it in once. It's like social proof. It's, showing results. it's a story, so it's personable, and there's a takeaway in the post. So if you can like sort of wrap it all into one,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah. That way you don't talk about yourself. Let others talk for you.
Yeah.
By virtue of a story. Those are phenomenal. Okay, thank you. There's so much here. I can't wait to dissect all this later. So this is what I do for every guest. I ask you your personal or professional mantra to either build your brand or specifically about this topic here, or just your point of view in business or life. So let's hear
I
it.
love that. I love that. I would have to say what sticks out in my mind is, this thought of like, I am capable of doing difficult things. I am capable of doing hard things or uncomfortable things. Personally and professionally, I find that gets me through because, if we let our emotions take over,
Yes.
we won't do half the things we know we should be doing. And just knowing that it's gonna hurt and we're gonna be scared, but you are capable of facing it. I find that to be a good mantra to sort of come back to. And whether it's like I'm scared to pitch to somebody, or I'm scared to interview somebody, or I'm scared to do a video, or I'm scared to launch my business, or I'm scared to end a relationship with a client, you are capable of doing uncomfortable. You can do difficult things.
Love that. That's great advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that to heart today.
Yeah.
So
I think it goes far. You can basically apply it to every.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Anything and everything.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, tell everyone where we can find you, where we should go for more information about you.
Okay. So I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So LinkedIn is probably your best way of reaching me. If I'm getting a lot of messages on LinkedIn, your second best is probably Instagram. I do respond to messages on Instagram. My LinkedIn lab is in beta right now. So I'm rolling out courses as I go. I think it's every time I record a module. Oh my God, that's so good. I think it's great. We do calls. I really love it. So that's one other way to kind of work with me.
Okay.
And I would say either Instagram or LinkedIn is probably your best bet. I'd love to meet people and talk to people. So
yeah, definitely go check her out. Now, do you have a website right now, or is that in development?
I do. It's in development right now. It's really just the course. It's mirovlevine.com, but it will take you directly to sign up for the lab. So
awesome.
It's in the works.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. So guys, this has been such a treat. I want to thank you so much, Marla, for showing up today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is fun. You and I can talk. In fact, we said we talk about the algorithm, but I feel like we'll
have to do that next time.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. Hopefully better days are ahead on that.
Do a post, find out what people want, and then
guys. So that's exactly. So you gave me a great idea on that. So, well, everyone, I just want to thank you. This has been 13 episodes. Amazing. I mean, I put myself out there on June 2nd and a little scared as anybody else to show up this way, but it's been so much fun. I met so many amazing people and learned so much and shared so much for you guys. This is the end of season 1. Amazing. But I'm not going away. I promise you, I'm taking a break. And then season 2, I'm already lining up some amazing guests. We're going to be focusing a lot on the people who have built their brands and following the footsteps of those before us, right? That's how we learn. Some of the best way to learn. Forget Google, just follow these people. And so I'm going to mix a lot of more stories, some actual advice, and I just can't wait. My motto is put yourself out there. Just like you said, you can do hard things. You and I are both proof. We left our jobs in 2020 and here we are. LinkedIn is a very wonderful place. And I just want to thank you all for the time and the season. And I can't wait to see you back. I also want to shout out to Melon. Melon, we can see it here, is been my awesome brand sponsor for season 1. They are what I use to live stream. It's super simple. I'll put a link, and they are just amazing people to work with. So shout out to all the team there if you're watching. I appreciate you guys. Anyway, everyone have a wonderful day, and I'll see you back on season 2. Take care.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We definitely need more impactful entrepreneurs like you out there. So if you'd like to learn more about how I can help you build your personal brand to grow your business, please check out yourbrandyourbusiness.com. And until next time, you have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. Now go put yourself out there and watch the business of you grow.